Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Madam Clerk, call this meeting to order.
No, attorney, sir.
Pardon me?
Attorney Brown.
Attorney Brown? I'm sorry.
Good morning, Mayor Johnson, Commissioners. We'll request a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of pending and potential litigation, real estate, and personnel.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Brandon Garrett, and Mr. Wayne Guilfoyle out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now in executive session. I did see her out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience here. All right, colleagues. All right, Madam Clerk, call this meeting back to order. Attorney Brown.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, we would like to request a motion to execute the closed meeting affidavit.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, voting.
Yeah.
Carries with Mr. Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Brandon Garrett, and Mr. Wayne Guilfoyle out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Attorney Brown, are there any motions as a result of our closed session?
Yes, sir. We'll request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims for Cedric Collins in the amount of $105,000, $105,969.13, and authorizing Augusta, Georgia interim administrator to disperse the aggregate amount of $105,969.13 and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. Is there a motion, please?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Brandon Garrett, and Mr. Wayne Guilfoyle out.
Thank you. Attorney Brown?
Yes, we request a motion to approve a $10,000 increase in the annual salary of Solicitor General Amika Loggins, commencing the beginning of the next pay period.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Brandon Garrett, and Mr. Wayne Guilfoyle out.
Thank you. Attorney Brown, does that conclude your motions?
Yes, it does, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby close out this meeting. I'm going to make a quick announcement because if you're here for the Public Services Committee, Public Safety, Engineering Services, or Finance, those committee meetings will not be held today. The only one we're going to hold today is Administrative Services due to us not having a quorum with some of our colleagues that are absent today. So the only committee hearing we will be having is Administrative Services. So I apologize if you made a trip down for any of those.
Well, let them know that.
They're off.
Yes. Okay. And I made aware by our clerk of the commission, those items will be moved forward to our next commission meeting, which is scheduled for the 18th of July. All right. Attorney Brown? 2 p.m. 2 p.m. All right. With that being said, I turn it over to the Administrative Services Committee Chairwoman, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, would like to call Administrative Service to order.
Yes, ma'am.
To my colleagues on the Administrative Service Committee, I would like to consent number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9.
So moved.
Madam Chair, can we have a presentation on number 4, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll second that consent.
Voting, Ms. Bonner.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
1 second, please. Voting, Ms. Bonner.
Okay. It's unanimous.
We'll start from top to bottom.
Okay.
Number
1. Item number 1 is to receive as information an update on relocating the Augusta Rowing Club from the boathouse.
Good afternoon. It was asked by the Central Services Department to look into the relocation of the rowing club and the boathouse. We did take a look at those items, and we were asked to bring it back in 30 days. So what this is a new structure that will be used to house the rowing club at 298 Prep Phillips Drive in an 80-foot by 40-foot boat storage area with the restroom and office. Because the area is in a floodway, it was some permitting that may have to be done to it. So in your agenda item, it shows that the permitting and proposed rowing club boathouse would include a county land disturbance permit, Georgia NPDES general permit for construction for erosion control. Also, it will be a Augusta Richmond County / FEMA no-rise certification that will be needed, and this is based on the location of the new facility, of course, being in the floodway. And since the new structure will be below the levee, this will be more than likely required to complete this project. Also, with the restrooms and the office being added to that storage facility, you would need to have that part of the building 3 feet above the ground. So there will be a 3-foot concrete foundation that needs to house the restroom and the office portion of the building. You can get away with not raising the warehouse portion of the building and putting it on a at grade concrete slab, only if you deem it unfinished for storage materials, which would basically be the boats. Based on our current climate and the anticipation of costs, the main storage building itself at 3,200 square feet, $85 per square feet, you're probably looking at about $272,000 for the building. The raised portion of the building for the restroom and office, which would be probably another 500 square foot of that building, another $150,000. Any site work, utility work that need to be done, because you'll have to run the electricity, of course, and the plumbing for the restrooms. That may be looking at another $50,000. Also, the design and permitting costs is another $50,000. So the financial impact for the city can run anywhere between $500,000 and $600,000 to make this happen. Like I said, these are just rough estimates. Just doing some research. So right now, we just bring this forth for information purposes only, and any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Commissioner Frandon.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. Thank you for this update. So this would serve as their permanent home to where if a new boathouse was built, they wouldn't have to be in the phase of it. Is that correct?
Right. That would definitely be a permanent structure once we complete this work.
Okay. And then as far as we also would have a lease agreement with them for this structure if built, correct?
Right. We would definitely have to enter into a new lease agreement for sure.
Okay. And then as far as from a funding source, could we use the funds that we currently that are dedicated for the boathouse to make this structure whole?
I'm not sure. I guess that would be up to this body to determine what funds we use or where.
Would it be, I guess the administrator, would that be a proper?
Commissioner, I would ask Tom to review what funding is currently available for the boathouse and then make a recommendation possibly at the meeting next week regarding potential funding sources.
Okay. And my last question is, has the rowing club, did you have any discussions with them about this?
No, I did not have any contact with the
Okay.
rowing club.
Well, my personal feeling is this is the right way to go. I think that we need to have them a permanent home. I think this kind of takes it out, the boathouse, what kind of public-private partnership we look to as a body moving forward. And I would hope that we could find the funds to kind of get this process going. Would it allow the Augusta Rowing Club to just keep their boats in the current boathouse while this was constructed if the body approved this?
You could just to house the boats, but I would not occupy it with pedestrians. No.
Okay. Well, I fully support this. I think this is the right thing. We get in a long-term lease with them for this building as well for, putting skin in the game as they've said that they would. So thank you for this presentation.
Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think my question pretty much has been answered because upon looking at this, I didn't know whether it was going to be a temporary solution to the Augusta Rowing Club or a permanent, but you did say that it would be a permanent location for them because we're talking about perhaps building a new boathouse, and I didn't want to see us spend $500,000 on something temporary and not be able to utilize it for any future use. So I think you answered that question. But moreover, you did say that this was just a guesstimate, so you're kind of leaving some wiggle room. This could be in excess of $500,000, or it can potentially be lower than $500,000.
Possibly we won't know that until the design work is done for the building. So the first step would be to procure an engineering firm to do the design work for the utilities and all the plumbing issues and get us through the permitting process.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Lampkin, you just mentioned that you have to procure a design firm to do some work. That's going to be an extra cost associated with this project?
Right. Right now, that cost estimate is around $50,000 is what we have as far as engineering and design work being done and permitting.
Will there be any shared costs between the rowing club and the city?
It would be me to say up front, probably not. That would be something we would probably have to add back into a lease agreement to recoup some of those, funds as part of the lease agreement.
Now, I want to ask this question. I don't want anyone to take offense to it, so please don't take this as anything negative. But a few meetings ago, we were saying that the rent that was supposed to be paid at the boathouse hadn't been paid thus far. Is that true to my recollection?
To my knowledge, yeah, that is correct. That the lease agreement has not been fulfilled from the original lease.
So what are we going to do to make sure that if we go down this road, that whatever terms of a new lease agreement is met? Because 500 and above is a lot of money for us just to foot, and they're not footing. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're working together on this. I'm not trying to be antagonistic in any way at all, but I just want to make sure that, number one, we are, in the middle of the road here, and then we're being responsible as possible fiduciary. So, I mean, what are we going to do to make sure that the terms are met?
I mean, I'm guessing it would work like any of our other leases. If it was a breach in the lease, then it would be sent over to legal to, I guess, determine how we move forward once we get into a lease agreement and it's not being honored.
So we're going to build a facility from ground up, basically, is what we're saying.
Basically, the building will be prefab and bought in. The only thing that would be done would be the groundwork and the slabs that need to be put in place before the building arrives, along with, like I said, the plumbing and utilities.
Okay, well, I don't know if the committee has any other questions or concerns. I think for the best part today, the Madam Chair, is that we send this to the full commission for further discussion and a vote. So I would just make a motion for it to full commission with our recommendation.
I'll second that, and she'll bring back a funding source as well.
Voting, Ms. Bonner.
It's unanimous. I think that takes us to item number 4, ma'am? Two? No, that was on consent. 4, I think, Mr. Johnson. Was that, I'm sorry. He asked for 2?
I asked for number 4.
Number 4.
Yes, ma'am. Number 2 wasn't consented, that I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
You wa-
Number 2 wasn't consented.
2 wasn't consented.
number 3 was consented.
3, okay. 2, we'll go to 2. Update on the operational audit as approved by the commission on May 2nd, 2023.
Ms. McKnight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to see if I can get an update. I know we talked about this, approved it over 2 months ago, so I'm bringing it back today to get an update. May I get that?
Sure. Commissioner, we have already drafted what the procurement item would look like as far as advertising through our procurement department. I, as the interim administrator, completed my final edits to the document on yesterday. It will then matriculate through the process by going through the compliance department and then further advertising through procurement. So you should have an update as to when the bid will open, when it will advertise within the coming weeks.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Got it.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just for further clarity, Administrator Downs, can you explain the scope of work that's going out in this procurement?
I don't know if I can because it is an open procurement or will propose to be an open procurement, but we have taken all of the dialogue from previous discussions to draft the scope of work surrounding the internal audit of our current operations, what standard of procedures are available throughout various departments, as well as any inefficiencies that may be present.
Thank you, Ms. Downs. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Motion to receive as information.
Can we
It's
do
been
that
motion and
without
second. It's
objection?
been motion and second. Ms. Bonner, we're ready to vote.
Okay. It's unanimous. Now to 4. Motion to receive as information an update regarding Christmas decorations for South Augusta, specifically Tobacco Road.
Okay. In our last meeting, Commissioner Johnson requested that we look into doing some Christmas decorations for South Augusta, specifically Tobacco Road. We did get with our vendor who supplies our Christmas decorations, and came up with the option for Tobacco Road. As you can see, the cost to put Christmas decorations on Tobacco Road will probably run us about $319,400, and that's with using unlit pole decorations. So with that option on Tobacco Road, the wooden pole, for one, Tobacco Road does not have our decorative street lighting like some of our other areas that we use the Christmas decorations. So with that in mind, those poles are owned by the power company. So we will first, one, have to get permission to attach to those poles. And two, because they're just regular wooden poles, they don't have electrical outlets on it. So we wouldn't be able to plug in the lit decorations. It would have to be something that's unlit, and you'll see that in your packet. So it would kind of just reflect that night. Also, some challenges you face is that those poles are not equally spread apart. You have a cluster in here. You may have a space where there is no lights at all. And so it wouldn't be kind of uniformed if you went that way. But my staff and myself did take a look at another option. As you can see in your package, which we labeled as option 2, where we could maybe do some kind of drive-through Christmas display at our Diamond Lakes Regional Park in South Augusta area. Now we did get some decoration prices for that setup as well, and that would run you about $459,435, and that would be like one of those sort of like lights in the south display where you would drive in one part of Diamond Lakes and drive out the other side, but it'll be displays of Christmas lights throughout on the poles in the larger common areas. And like I said, we did get a cost for those decorations to purchase. That purchase price does not include the designer setup when you would have the company come in to set it up for you. Of course, if you went with option 2, because it is our park and it's gated, you could charge a fee at night to get in and out of the park, whether it be $5 a car, $1 a car, whatever, to kind of recoup some of those funds. Is what we were looking at when we came up with that idea. Also in your packet, you'll see those lights that's listed in the packet. You'll see pictures of those lights that we asked for pricing on.
Any more questions? You good?
I just have one thing. I like the alternatives. I like it a lot. It seems though the drive-through would be more expensive than the installation along Tobacco Road. I think that having something like that at Diamond Lakes would be a nice addition to the South Augusta area during Christmas time. Most of us go to Lights of the South or to other places, and so I think that would be a good addition to have out in South Augusta for the holiday season. The price tag is a little, whenever we hear those types of numbers, man, I tell you, we want to do so much, but we have so little to do it with. I like the idea, but again, we have to work as an entire body. So I'll just make a motion to forward to the full commission with our recommendation. But I see that we have other colleagues in the queue as well. But I like the idea. I think it'd be great to put that out at Diamond Lakes as an alternative to Tobacco Road. Maybe we can get there. But that's my motion to forward to full commission.
Second.
Okay.
And I have Commissioner Lewis.
Yes, just one question for Mr. Lampton. Mr. Lampton, what is the cost for doing this display in the areas that we already do? What is our annual, what is the cost?
We don't have an annual cost for the ones that we already do. We just basically put in the budget, in our capital budget, to purchase those lights, and all those decorations are put up by staff. Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Franham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aren't part of those purchased by the DDA?
Say that again.
Aren't part of the downtown lights purchased by the DDA?
No, it's not.
Interim Director,
The DDA did purchase lights at one point in time, but
Recently.
we have continuously been
$60,000
purchasing.
worth.
That's correct. So I did want to make sure we point that out. But year over year, we've been replacing lights to ensure that we have the new energy efficient lights that are LED, that are lighter as far as installation is concerned, and that burn brighter.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Another question, and I'm going to come out of the queue, is you said the lights, if we were to install them on Tobacco Road, they wouldn't be lit. They would just be reflecting at night. So,
Yeah, that's correct.
okay, and that was about, you said $300,000 in that neighborhood somewhere?
Right, 319.
319. So in order to get them lit, to go through all the utility work, that's probably going to take us another couple $100,000.
Correct.
Would that be sort of the same as what would it take to do it at Diamond Lakes, or would it be a little bit more expensive?
It would probably be more expensive because once again, that would be in correlation with the power company and getting them to add the outlets and do all that. So I'm sure it would be a few $100,000 more just to get the outlets to plug those lights up.
Okay. And what type of timeline would you need from the commission if we decided to go out to do the Diamond Lakes route?
I'm not sure. We've already placed the order for our additional lighting that we'll be using in the downtown areas. I'm sure it's something that we can get on hand. It'll just be a matter of us getting the lights here. So if you said you want to do it and proceed, we can always put the order in, and then that would, or if you decide next Tuesday that that's something we want to pursue, I can get with the company to say, or even before the meeting next Tuesday, I'll get with the company to see how long it would take if we order them, how fast we can get them here.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions? Ms. Faulkner, we're ready to vote. Ms. Bonner, Commissioner McKnight, you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask how the lights were done, like at over there at Jimmy Dye's.
I beg your pardon?
Lights over there on Jimmy Dye's.
Mm-hmm. You want that for consideration as well, you're saying? You want to know?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. Possible.
So you want a cost on what it would take for us to put decorations down the light post in the median on Jimmy Dyer's?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Bonner, so what are we adding to?
If it's okay with your committee, without objection, to add that to the motion to move forward to the full commission with no recommendation, adding the solicitation costs for lighting on Jimmy Dyer's. Is that okay with the committee? Okay.
Committee, any more concerned with that, adding that? Vote, Ms. Bonner.
Okay. It's unanimous. Item number 10. It's presentation of the right sizing plan, recommendations by Interim Administrator Dowse. ready, Ms. Dowd? She's ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioners, what you have in front of you now is the attachment which details the department grounds maintenance schedule. This was requested by several commissioners when I presented the right sizing plan to you on June 6th. You all received a paper copy, as well as there's a copy of the document included in your agenda books today. Right sizing from a governmental perspective is the process of restructuring to ensure we operate efficiently, as well as meet updated service objectives. Research has shown that entities, both public and private, will usually right size by reorganizing current service delivery strategies, reducing the workforce, department consolidations, and even reductions in service offerings. Although oftentimes misunderstood, there is a difference between downsizing and right sizing. It is imperative for you to know that this is a plan, not a final destination, and clearly not presented as an all-for-nothing, one-size-fits-all approach to Augusta's operational efficiencies. Recommendations presented today can be implemented a la carte, over a period of time, or as needed. If you recall, on February 7th, during a commission meeting, the commission approved the administrator and staff to report back to the committee within 120 days. I was prepared on June 6th to give you this same presentation, although due to some scheduling conflicts, I presented to you a printed copy of the document at that time. The recommendations presented in my proposed right-sizing plan are based upon, 1, internal department engagement with various departments that have been detailed here today. 2, surveying and benchmarking best practices from municipalities comparable to Augusta, as well as over 30 communities commonly situated. And 3, a robust review of academic resources that have deemed these efforts both tried and true. This pathway, coupled with presenting common strategies previously implemented in comparable municipalities and operation efficiencies, as well as things that I have noted over my years of being a leader within this government, have contributed to the final product as you will see presented today. My recommendations include exploring outsourcing services, assessing duplicative tasks, reducing workforce allowances, enhancing our revenue growth opportunities, considering the liquidation of our physical assets, improving our shared asset management approach, restructuring our benefits from a human resources standpoint, implementing technology solutions for Augusta 311, and then mandatory percentage-based budget cuts. Augusta's responsibility surrounding grounds maintenance has been a common concern from department directors as well as commissioners, both past and present. Is it a right-of-way? Is it grounds? Is it at a facility? Is it parks and recreation? No. It's central services? No. It's engineering. We've heard this story over and over again. This exaggerated conversation is all too familiar and can be eliminated by consolidating efforts. In January, this body took the first approach to centralize right-of-way maintenance within the engineering department. This was done to manage and maintain highly visible right-of-way landscaped areas. To take it a step further, I recommend creating a grounds maintenance division within our central services department. This division, combined with the current ground efforts currently deployed by 3 separate departments, will include central services, engineering, and parks and recreation. The scope of work includes services from trees to right-of-way maintenance to facility maintenance, as well as parks maintenance. Centralizing grounds-related maintenance tasks under one department with one vision will seamlessly address Augusta's resounding concerns about grass and tree maintenance. While services may continue to be outsourced, allowing the department, whichever department we ultimately choose, to assess the best deployment of resources will ensure a schedule of need that is addressed and recurring services are performed. This consolidation will allow Augusta to reap the benefits of economies of scale, thus lowering our cost to contractors and giving Augusta a competitive advantage to the services we need on a daily basis. By assessing duplicative tasks throughout our government, we are able to reduce redundancy as well as ensure our resources are productive. Augusta Utilities will continue their implementation of advanced metering infrastructure as a means of streamlining its meter reading activities. The AMI system will result in the reduction of meter reading staff, which is unfortunately a high turnover position. The Augusta Fire Department is working to implement several measures which will improve efficiency as well as productivity. By reducing the automatic dispatch of fire trucks, Augusta Fire can, 1, reduce equipment costs such as additional fire trucks, ambulances, and other specialized gear, and 2, reduce fuel and maintenance costs, which is a cost that we will be able to reap the benefits of immediately. This is especially beneficial with gas prices continuing to rise. With the addition of our current 911 provider, Central EMS, Augusta is able to reduce the needed responses for our current Augusta Fire Ambulance Medical Unit. With this premise, our unit will be reserved for fire-related response medical calls, training needs within the fire department, and responses related to mutual aid requests. It is key to note that this savings will be offset by a reduction in revenue generated from our current patient care transport costs. So we will essentially be robbing Peter to pay Paul. Augusta Fire will also improve upon their current management asset practices by automating the process of tracking and maintaining our physical assets. This is to ensure that they are maintained effectively. Their community outreach program will work to educate the community on fire safety and prevention measures through a robust Alert Augusta initiative. Hopefully, all of you listening to my voice today have already signed up for this valuable program. This program objective will be achieved by thorough community-focused efforts surrounding education, outreach, community events. Operational standards will create a safer Augusta, all saving us money. The recently approved Community Cat Trap Neuter Release Program, in conjunction with our Animal Services Department, will reduce the fiscal resources expended on cat food and euthanasia drugs. An additional cost savings will also be reduced and realized by reducing the amount of fuel that is consumed on a day-to-day basis. Concerning our workforce, as of June 6, Augusta had 331 vacancies. It is important to note that this figure represents the entire consolidated government, to include our elected officials. Of this figure, 34 have been vacant for more than 12 months and represent vacancies within the general fund. While these positions have been vacant for a myriad of reasons, mass abolishment based upon a vacancy date is not recommended, for each situation is a case-by-case basis. Interim positions, such as mine today, highly trained technical positions, the lack of upward mobility, and the inability to offer a competitive wage are all reasons reported by Human Resources as to why positions have been vacant for an extended period of time. While positions can be abolished to create funds for other uses, keep in mind that it would not come without the expense of another, either a service, program, or task. As we look at our revenue opportunities that may present themselves in the future, through tax digest growth, increased user fees, and service charges according to the appropriate benefit, Augusta will assume enhanced revenue growth. These are things that will come to us just by being our garden city. As in previous years, Augusta's economy has remained stable despite our COVID-19 global pandemic. Consequently, Augusta has been afforded the advantage in maintaining consistent service levels by keeping personnel and our operation costs steady. Our revenue outlook for the next 12 to 14 months is reflective of our stable and local economy, as well as our 3% growth rate that has been assumed. As you can see here on our chart, I've outlined our 2020, 2021, as well as our 2022 sales cast figures, as well as projected an increase for our 2023 and then years for so on. The Augusta Utilities Department currently pays the merchant services bank fees when a customer's credit card is used to pay a water bill. Transferring the courtesy fee back to the card user would result in substantial savings to the department. The transference of costs back to the customer is becoming more and more popular and could even save more if this is adopted throughout our entire government as a financial policy. We have some departments within our city that already transfer this cost from using credit card services to the customer, while all do not. This is another consideration. And last but not least, Animal Services proposes implementing a $50 flat rate surrender fee for all animals, regardless of its condition. This again is an assumed savings. Concerning our assets, the 2008 Laney Walker Bethlehem Revitalization Implementation Plan details the acquisition of area residential and commercial parcels. Although the departmental focus has remained the same, just as with everything else, it has also changed. Their development approach has shifted in some aspects. Based upon this maneuvering, Augusta could realize a direct capital infusion of funding from the sale of approximately 25 parcels. Concerning liquidation of underutilized assets, Augusta owns a lot of property within Augusta. This property represents a considerable investment of public funds. The advantages from these assets, if we decide to sell them, can provide several positive short-term as well as long-term outcomes, such as significant revenue increases, as well as the facility maintenance and utility costs would also be abated. In addition to the surplus of real estate noted in the plan, I have included 3 additional parcels for consideration. That's the fire station on Reynolds Street, the fire station on Sandbar Ferry, as well as the Highland Construction Yard, which is utilized by both Augusta Utilities and Central Services, right across from the Daniel Field Airport. The current tax assessed value is stated, and if sold, these funds would be returned to our coffers. I noted an error after reviewing the plan that I presented to you on June 6th, so please note that in the document it shows an appraised value that should have been stated as a tax assessed value. Nonetheless, the sale of the above properties here, as shown, total more than $1.5 million, and if added to the properties I've already listed in the physical document you received, would total more than $3.2 million. Concerning parks and recreation, of the 5 parks noted in the plan for divestment, Augusta currently spends about $150,000 on maintenance. If we divest those as recommended, it would save us $145,000 annually. In lieu of purchasing new assets, I recommend that we utilize vehicles that have been deemed underutilized by reassigning them to departments in lieu of purchasing new vehicles, such as cars, vans, and trucks. You would be surprised to see how many vehicles are not utilized to their full capacity on a day-to-day basis. Holding our departments responsible for ensuring assigned vehicles receive the contracted, scheduled maintenance on all fleet assets is imperative to ensure we are not unnecessarily paying for non-contracted services. With this alone, Central Services has reported that we could save approximately 10 to 20% of our current maintenance costs with our provider. Something as simple as taking a vehicle to the fleet maintenance shop for routine maintenance is oftentimes overlooked and ends up being a costly repair. Concerning restructuring our benefits with human resources, as we hear in the news all too common, healthcare costs are large, and unfortunately they are continuing to grow, not only in Augusta, but across the globe. Controlling these costs are vital to our financial stability. Our Human Resources Department is undertaking measures to address cost factors which are currently impacting our overall health expenditure liabilities. Things such as educating our employees on the value of preventative screenings, as well as encouraging participation in wellness programs, could save us potentially millions. Augusta currently manages 2 separate software platforms to manage its 311 call center. Working with multiple vendors prevents scheduling challenges along with multiple software limitations between platforms. We all utilize Augusta 311, and troubleshooting these issues will be less cumbersome due to the unified platform and the ability to turn on features both on and off in the mobile environment. This again could assume savings. Now, concerning percentage-based budget cuts. While you may think across-the-board budget cuts are the easiest approach, this is a misnomer. General cuts of this nature can have a positive and negative impact on both the budget and service delivery of our citizens and visitors. While this measure can immediately reduce the amount of expenditures, this method can simultaneously reduce the overall value of our public services. Figure C identifies across-the-board budget cut options commonly used in fiscal management. Historically, Augusta has been reluctant to implement budget reductions at the expense of service level reductions in quality or quantity. To the same respect, our general fund only makes up about 18% or $182 million of our overall $1 billion budget. I would like for you to keep all of this in mind as you choose to make whatever decisions you choose to make as we go into planning and the continued presentation of our FY24 budget. This concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dawes. I have a question. We have a class and compensation study ongoing right now.
Yes.
So this is your recommendation without having consultant because it's not right. It's not ready for public. The compensation study.
Yes.
When would that be? Do you have an idea when we should have preliminary findings of that study?
I have requested preliminary information from Human Resources by September. That will allow me to ensure that whatever the recommendation from the consultant will be, it could be included in our FY24 budget.
Okay, I'll come back. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, let me thank you, Administrator Dowse, for your presentation. I feel like it was very well thought out. I had a chance to read it while I was on the airplane. And so thank you for giving me something to read on the airplane. But this, I think, was very, very well thought out. I just have a couple of questions in regards to a few areas. The first being Section 5, under asset divestment, when we're talking about liquidation of our selected parks. If I'm not mistaken, there were more parks on that list that we received a few months, well, about maybe a year or so ago. Did we decide to cut down on the number of parks that we were divesting from?
Yes.
Okay. I know that at some point we were talking about Pendleton King Park. Now, I'm not saying that under any circumstance. I see a couple folks just looked at me and smiled. I'm not saying shut down Pendleton King Park, I promise. What I am asking, however, is the amount of money that we were investing into the park, along with that trust? Is that also taken into consideration when we're talking about divestment?
Give me 1 second,
Okay.
Commissioner. I'm trying to get where you are.
It's page 76.
Thank you. If you notice, Pendleton King Park was removed from the divestment listing. So ask your question again, please.
Just wanted to know if we were still putting in, I believe it was like maybe somewhere around 400,000 or 500,000. We can always come back to that if you'd like to.
The department director has stated, yes, we are.
Okay, we'll come back to that at a different date because I don't want to get too far into that. And also the fire station on Reynolds Street. I believe that's in that section somewhere. It was in the,
I think Reynolds Street was the one that was added, so it's here on your screen.
so
Yes.
is that where Central is staged out of right now? Or is that a different fire station?
Yes, that is where Central is currently staged.
And we'll have a
Yes.
plan to relocate them or something to that effect?
They're already making plans to relocate.
Okay, all right. Okay. And as far as the across-the-board cuts, I know that there were some questions about that. So can you explain a little bit, Table 7 on 81, page 81? Is this where we're pretty much thinking about cutting versus going department to department and cutting vacant positions and things of that nature?
So Table 7 was just a compilation of all of the recommendations that I presented. I attempted to provide you with a proposed savings amount. And as you could see, item number 1, which detailed the consolidation of Central Services, Engineering, and Parks and Recreation to create the grounds maintenance division, that does not have a figure, because if you choose to implement that particular recommendation, it would require some additional planning on behalf of the departments that are involved, as well as human resources. So a figure for savings has not been determined, as well as item number 9 for percentage-based budget cuts. I left that section blank as well, because if that is an option that the commission would like to pursue, that percentage amount would have to come from this body.
And that was the question that I was getting at. Thank you for that clarity. I was just wondering what determination came out of the percentage-based budget cut section here. But your recommendation do you have a recommendation on how to go about this section?
I do not have a recommendation, but I did, however, provide several options.
Yeah, I see those 3 here. I just want to see which ones would you recommend as it relates to Augusta's financial condition now?
So the way Augusta's budget is currently set up, it would not be across all lines, because you have a general fund as well as enterprise funds as well as a host of other funds. So taking the equity approach would be extremely challenging. Yet at the same time, a targeted approach would easily be presumed as not being fair from one department to another, because taking 3% from the law department looks completely different than taking 3% from the Central Services Department. Also, a vast majority of our budget is comprised of personnel as well as benefit costs. If you take a across-the-board cut, you very well may be digging into some of your personnel costs, where that may be something that you would not otherwise have intended to have as a consequence.
So let me ask you this, and I'm done, Madam Chair. With the amount of vacant lot cutting and vacant, just the yard cutting in general, we're doing all of that. We want to consolidate all of that work. Does that apply to a vacant home in a neighborhood that's just overgrown? Would that Central Service Department be responsible for cutting that as well?
It would, because right now that is a division of environmental services. They handle vacant lot cutting, as well as, the Augusta, Georgia Land Bank has property, and they're responsible for cutting their lots as well. But from an internal perspective, yes, it would include grounds maintenance, lots, and so on and so forth.
And I asked that question because it says targeted program or service within a specific department. Would we see some type of change bringing that in-house versus divvying all these vacant lots out to individual companies or one singular company? Will we see any savings there by bringing it under Central Services? Would that suffice for some type of budget cut that the commission is trying to get to?
It's
Or maybe am I not understanding
It's
correctly?
premature. No, I understand
Okay.
your question, but it's premature for me to answer that at this moment because throughout our departments, there's various contracts for various services. Some of them may be duplicative from one department to another. Hence the reason why I'm suggesting consolidating all of those efforts, allowing one department to review everything that is stated. And that's not to say that we still may not end up with 20 different contractors, because we do have small businesses in Augusta that we want to make certain that we support. That's another division of our plan that's coming through the compliance department. Yet at the same time, we will also be able to reap the benefit of economies of scale because we are looking for services for such a large landscape of property. So it will give Augusta a competitive advantage when we hit the market saying that we're needing thousands of acres cut versus a department here, a department here, and a department here.
Gotcha. I was just saying I was going to go buy me a lawnmower and make a little, help the city out a little bit. But no, anyhow, thank you for your presentation. Again, I think this is very well thought out, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Franton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first off, thank you for the presentation. The credit card policy you talked about, I would hope that's something that'll get before this body pretty quickly because I understand certain divisions do it and certain areas don't. So that seems like an easy savings and an easy way, and I think everybody up here would support something like that. The ground maintenance division, where basically the people would go from the different departments under this new position in central services. The funds would be transferred from the other departments, and there wouldn't be any additional costs per se within the central services?
No, I am hoping to assume a savings because, again, we're duplicating efforts.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And I guess my thoughts are reading the screen about understanding maybe the 3 to 5% might be hurting on some and not others, but when the amount of printing that we do within this government, when so many things are automated now, some of the marketing we do, some of the parties that, though we're appreciative of what they do, they're expensive. And I think those are the things that I think that we're going to have to dive deeper into. I don't believe that we ought to cut personnel, anyone that's working here, or anything, or benefits like that. But that's where I'll be deep diving into is what are these special things that we're spending money on. It seems like we're spending a lot at the end of the year too. That we appreciate the employees and all that, but at the same respect, is that the best use of taxpayers' dollars? Because you talked about how you don't want to cut because you're scared of the service aspect, but there's a lot of things that this government's doing that doesn't affect the employees from a service standpoint. I think that's the deep discussions that I'm going to have and want to have with each department on what are we doing that we could cut and save money on from that perspective. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, Administrator Dowse, as it's already been said, you did a phenomenal job at the presentation. Thank you so much. I would like to say that I got goosebumps when Commissioner Johnson mentioned Pendleton King Park, and I'm just going to leave that right there. Administrator Dowse, I would like to see a cost savings analysis for the ground maintenance. So for actually outsourcing that, what would it save and how would it save us if it's, well, one, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that we would outsource it to several different contractors, but it would no longer be those departments' responsibility. So it would no longer be engineering, Parks and Recs, Central Service. Is that correct?
Partly.
Okay.
If this recommendation is one in which this commission is interested in, it would require extensive research to determine what employees would be affected, what salary and benefits would have to be transferred, because in one department in particular, one employee can be paid by several different sources. And so pulling that out and determining how this individual would then be categorized would be a mammoth effort. And by having one department able to look into this plan to see what services are being provided, to ensure that we do not have a duplication of effort, to ensure that there is proper supervision in place to make certain that our grounds are being maintained in accordance with the contract parameters. All of that would require some additional time. And so while you're asking for the analysis, we don't have a problem doing that, but I want to make sure that this is something that the commission is interested in, because it is going to take a lot of hours for staff to pull this information together to present it back to you, hopefully in time for a decision to be made for the budget FY24.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. For grounds maintenance, we've had several conversations, because that is a big issue that I hear from my constituents all the time. And, you know, yesterday I was riding around just taking pictures of the overgrown lots that are on the sidewalks and things of that nature. So just having a maintenance schedule in place is of the utmost importance, especially right now during the summer months, and we're experiencing so much rain. So thank you for answering my question.
And Exhibit A, the document that you have in front of you, that is the maintenance schedule. But it's the maintenance schedule from 3 different departments, from multiple contractors for multiple services.
So I believe we need to kind of really dig into that and make sure that that maintenance schedule is actually being adhered to all the time.
Hence the consolidation of the department as I'm proposing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Commissioner McKnight.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this presentation. As we all have said, done a great job. I just got a question about the maintenance. How will combining them be more productive?
So currently, in just a cursory review of job descriptions and the amount of personnel that are assigned throughout these various departments, allowing them to work together as a unit could effectively save us, one, from a contracting standpoint. We contract out a lot of work that could be done in-house. At the same time, we spend a lot of time chasing behind contractors that we are paying to do a job that is not doing the job to our current standards. So anytime you're able to see the entire pie versus piecemealing it out, you should be able to assume better oversight as well as management, because you would know exactly where everyone is at any given time. Right now we have 3 different departments, and I'm not even talking about Augusta Utilities has maintenance contracts for grounds. The airport has maintenance contracts, Augusta Fire Department. I'm not even talking about them. Right now I'm talking about the big 3, which is Central Services, who handles all of our facilities, Parks and Recreation, as well as engineering with our meetings and so on and so forth. Now, in speaking with the departments, do know that this plan came with pulling teeth. So I haven't even turned around to see what types of looks I'm receiving at this moment, because I do know that this is a tough conversation, but it has truly been one that I have struggled with as the Central Services Director, and understand the challenges that it presents on a day-to-day basis. Additional coordination of efforts would be required to determine who is going to ensure that Parks and Recreation has the white lines on the baseball field, or the appropriate needs that are very specific in nature surrounding a football game. Those are the types of things that would require additional coordination. So what I have presented to you today is a broad approach, but hopefully broad enough to where you understand the idea. And economies of scale is a proven financial fact in which you are able to reap competitive advantages when you bring the whole case to the table to allow vendors and contractors to bid on in that fashion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to add here, if there's a need for some additional funds to any other department, I hear Hawthorne Welcher has a lot of money. Did he leave out? Yeah, he left out. He must have felt that one coming his way. But no, Administrator Dowse, thank you. Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Voting, Ms. Bonner.
Commissioner Scott, may I ask for clarification on the motion to approve? What is it that this body is approving?
I'd imagine there, so with that, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Approving this information.
Yes, we'll take it as information. Are there any action items?
Receiver's information.
We'll receive it as information. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
My thoughts are I'm ready to see some action. So that's why I said approval. I mean, I don't understand why we're going to sit here and kick it down the can down the road. I mean, I'm ready to see some action because we got a budget season that's coming, and some of these things need to happen ASAP.
And I understand that, Commissioner Franton, but we also have a class and compensation study that's going to be almost, it's going to be like a companion.
Are there, Madam Chair, may I be recognized?
Sure.
Are there any items that we can improve outside of the compensation study, things that would go in companion with this? Maybe like the liquidation of our assets, moving forward with consolidating the grounds maintenance. Are there certain items in this plan that we can move forward with approving today? Or would it just make more sense to just wait until after the study? I just need a little clarity on that. Because I believe either way is, we'll get to the same place. But for the interest of action, like what can we approve today?
Questions?
It's up to,
What is she recommending?
I'm sorry,
Recommending the approval?
I did not hear the question. Did you ask me?
Yes, ma'am. You're anyone else that can provide any kind of clarity? I know that there are some, with the compensation study, it's going to go hand in hand with your right sizing plan to a degree. So we don't want to make any changes or make any approvals that will affect that study or vice versa. So what could we approve in this plan today that wouldn't affect anything coming out of that compensation study? Because I think some of what's in here, like the Central Services Department division, the liquidating of our assets, some of those things I think we can make happen if we just approve certain parts of the plan, unless there's another route to take. It's just a suggestion. I don't want to get too
Can I
deep
ask for
into it.
clarity on one thing? What do you think that the compensation study is going to affect, like the whole the grounds crew as maintenance division? Like, what does that affect it? I guess.
Well, I think some of I'm not sure if we can piecemeal and pick certain parts out. If it's legal, if we can do that, I'm fine with that. But if we start doing right sizing of departments and all that, I just don't think we are ready to approve the plan, the whole plan.
Okay. How about? Suggestion maybe is that could we forward it to the full commission and bullet point out some things next week that we could possibly implementate that doesn't affect the right sizing plan? Does that compensation study
Yeah, absolutely.
with the motion of the maker of the motion?
So do we need to restate the motion or?
So the motion would be, in my mind, Madam Chair, would be to just forward to the full commission without recommendation, and to have the administrator provide pieces from the plan that we could pass that would not affect the compensation study. Would that be the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Need a
Okay.
second. Sure.
Second.
You good, Miss? Yes.
Okay, that's to certain portions that will,
Madam Clerk, you good?
okay. Okay,
You good, Madam
Yeah,
Clerk?
let me see if this captures what you're recommending. Your motion is to forward to the full commission without a recommendation, allowing the administrator to recommend certain portions of their plan that would not affect the compensation study for consideration.
Yes, sir.
Some to that
Yes,
effect.
ma'am. That's as good as we're gonna get it today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we vote, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Interim Administrator Dowse, thank you so much for this information. It's a great start to having a conversation of what we need to be discussing as it relates to next year's budget. As you know, we have a lot of challenges, and at least having these discussions and opening up this dialogue is a great thing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we ready?
You ready to vote, sir?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Okay. It's unanimous. Okay. Our next item, number 11, is to receive as information a written recommendation from the administrator regarding a funding request for the Junior Achievement Discovery Center of the CSRA from Ms. Ashley Whitaker, representative of the CSRA JA Discovery of Georgia. I'm sorry.
Commissioner,
Ms.
here
Dowd?
with us today, we have Ms. Ashley Whitaker, who is the Director of Development for Junior Achievement, as well as Ms. Danielle Wilkes, who is the VP of Development for Junior Achievement. And they have brought with them some representatives from the Richmond County Board of Education, Ms. Kanisha Ponder, the Director of Teaching and Learning, and Ms. Aletha Snowberger, who is the Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning. If you recall, I presented to you my written recommendation on behalf of Junior Achievement. The date on the memorandum was March 20th, 2023. However, that date was in error. It should have been June 20th of 2023. But it's my recommendation to enter into a multi-year memorandum of understanding for 5 years with Junior Achievement of Augusta, payment of $50,000 in 5 $10,000 increments. I also understand that Ms. Whitaker gave you all, or some of the body, a tour of the Junior Achievement facility down in Savannah, Georgia. And here with me today is Ms. Whitaker, should you have any additional comments or questions.
Thank you.
Before you get started, Ms. Whitaker, I think Commissioner Johnson is the board liaison. And let's hear from you first, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to first start off by thanking you for the tour in Savannah. We had an interesting time finding the tour. Mr. Guilfoyle was here today. I'll jive on him. I pick on him a little bit. But thank you for the tour. I think that everyone who went on the tour thought that it was a fine establishment and that what you're trying to accomplish is an honorable thing. So thank you for that. In lieu of your presentation, I want to just make a motion to forward this to the full commission. I know that we have some commissioners out today. I kind of feel as though that we're to the point of making a decision, but we want to make sure that all the commissioners are here to make that, to have any other questions asked, those types of things. And so I'm going to make a motion to forward this to our commission meeting on the 18th without a recommendation from this committee. But of course, we still want to hear from you. Still want to, if you have anything to add. But the tour was great. We learned a lot, and our eyes were this big. And so I just want to thank you for the work that you're putting in to make sure that our kids are exposed to better ways of navigating life. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Commissioner Frannon, you want to say something? Or you
I was just wondering what the funding source is going to be.
Where the money coming from?
I'm always going to ask about the money. Y'all know that. I'll forward that information and provide it to you during the commission meeting, sir.
Motion is second.
Second on that, Madam Chair. Okay.
Ms. Whitaker,
So again, thank you for allowing us to come today.
your name?
Ashley Whitaker. Do you need my address?
Yes.
It's 1105 Hogan Street, Richmond County. So today, I don't have much more to say. I do appreciate the folks who did come out to the tour. I truly think that that is the best way to get an understanding of what the programming is and what we're going to be bringing here to the CSRA. Just a quick update from the last time I was before this body. Columbia County government has officially signed on for the partnership of this space. So, they have signed and been invoiced, and it is official. That meaning that if, of course, we would like for Richmond County to be able to be a full partner with Columbia County, and that's what we're proposing today. If that is decided to be not something that the commission wants to move forward with, we completely understand. Just know that that would then go to Columbia County government, and they would have the full ownership of that town hall storefront inside our facility. With me today, I do have some representatives from the Richmond County school system. If we have a moment, I would love to have them come up and tell you a little bit more about our partnership.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And while you're coming, we need your name and your address, please.
Hello, my name is Kenesha Ponder. My address is 714 Muir Lake Court, Grovetown, Georgia. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning, and thank you for this opportunity. We're excited about this partnership with Junior Achievement. This opportunity will provide lots of learning experiences for our 7th and 8th grade students. It will also provide opportunities for our families. The center, as I know Ms. Whitaker has already shared with you, will provide volunteer opportunities for our parents and other stakeholders within the community. And we're just thinking about the importance of investing in our students and thinking about lifelong learning.
Thank you, ma'am. The motion. We motion. Did you make the motion?
Yes, ma'am, I made it.
Okay.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
I did find the funding source, Commissioner Frantum. This year, $10,000 would come out of contingency, and then we would work the remaining $40,000 into our operational budget year after year. But that would all be spelled out through a memorandum of understanding between Augusta and Junior Achievement.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Vote, Ms. Bonner.
This is to move forward with no recommendation. You want to vote or do it without objection?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're done.
Thank you, colleagues, for being here today. We had a